Hello and welcome to the Vicars Watch Dibley,
the podcast where three priests link our stories with those of a Reverend Geraldine Granger and other TV vicars. I'm Kate.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ruthie. This episode we're talking about the Merry Christmas episode, and we talk through most of this episode about success in ministry and how to measure that.
Hello everyone!
Hello! Hi!
How are you doing today?
Oh, weary. It's been a day.
What an energising start to the podcast.
This episode is coming out at the end of the Christmas season. We are recording it, however, mid-Advent, so we're all a little bit tired, aren't we? But we're hoping when this comes out, we'll all be in great, blissful epiphany mood.
Brand new year. Think we're recording this, but we're actually in the future right now. We're in 2023, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Whoa.
It's time to grab your favourite drink, have a dance, have a cheers, and celebrate.
Yeah, do we have New Year's resolutions? I suppose that's a question.
Well, actually, my good for this week might feature this. The thing I'm loving this week, if you don't mind me jumping in here, is that I joined the gym again.
Oh,
and I
nice.
don't want to. I know it's that thing of like, guys, we don't need the gym. Like, you don't just love your body as it is. Like, stop shaming yourself. And I'm all about that life. But also, I absolutely love the gym for my physical health, but also for my mental health. To have a place to escape to, I love it. And I was a member for ages, and then I just dropped it after a while because Chris promised, my new husband, promised that he'd join a gym with me, and we finally found one that we loved, and we've started going, and I'm loving it. Loving it.
That's good.
Yeah.
What about you, Ruthie? Do you have a New Year's resolution?
I don't have a resolution per se. I always kind of forget about them. I'm not very good at it. But I can talk about something that I've been loving. Is that I've been doing more kind of vicar stuff at the moment. And I've just done a couple of Christingles with a local school. And oh my gosh, it was so much fun and just brilliant. And kids come up with the best answers for stuff. But what was really weird is I went to the school to do the Christingle for the younger years. And the smallest people were at the front row, and I was just there thinking, actually, in a couple of years' time, that'll be my son sat in the front row, and that was spooky thinking. But it was so much fun. We had a great time.
Ruthie,
How about you,
what's
Kate?
a Christingle?
Oh, good point. Christingle's the one with the satsumas with the big oranges. So it's something that's a big thing in the UK. People love going to it, whether they are part of church or not. And it's a service that was created, well, it was created separately, but in part has kind of been co-opted by a charity called the Children's Society. And it's like their big fundraiser is that people raise money for the Children's Society, who do a lot of amazing work for young people in this country. And it's basically, you do some carols, you get an orange, you wrap a red ribbon around it to represent God's love. The orange represents the world. You have 4 sticks on there with sweeties on it to represent God's goodness and gifts. And then you've got a big candle in the middle of it to represent Jesus as the light of the world. And people love it. It's great. And there's always a fire risk or the chance that a child will stab someone else with a cocktail stick.
Yeah.
The drama.
Who doesn't love a service with peril?
Brave.
What about you, Kate? What have you loved, or what's your resolution?
I think they tie together. So I've been really loving... I live on a border with Wales, and I've been watching like proper TV, not just like on demand. So I've been getting adverts, and I'm getting adverts in Welsh.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm just loving, because when you're not paying attention, you look up and you're like, what? Am I in a different world? I grew up on the border of Scotland, so this is taking me back to growing up where we'd suddenly get stuff in Scots Gaelic, programming and stuff. But anyway, this ties to my New Year's, not necessarily a resolution, but an aim. I'd like to learn a bit of Welsh in the next year.
You can get some good apps for that. That's how I learnt the national anthem in Welsh.
That's amazing.
Yeah. This is like a random fact. But that's such a nice one. I love the gift of learning languages. Mijn hen vlad van hadayon en oily me glad byrach and toyon and walk yon free.
Oh my gosh!
I
have no idea what you sung. We might have
the
massively just
land
offended
of my
a Welsh
fathers, the land
listener.
of the free. Yeah, please forgive me, actual genuine Welsh speakers. My pronunciation was no doubt poor.
You are just a woman of many talents, Jenny.
I have to say, speaking another language is big. I would love to be able to do it. My brain isn't geared that way. But Kate, I feel like you already have that skill a little bit. So no doubt you'll pick it up very quickly.
I learn languages for fun.
You got the language brain.
Lovely.
So, Jenny, what are we doing today?
Good question. Let's dive on in. So it's very popular belief that Christmas ends on the 25th of December at 11:59. 12 o'clock. But that is not true. It's not true. We're continuing on in the season of Christmas as we group towards Epiphany. And today we are looking at... Sorry, is that okay?
Towards Epiphany.
Sorry, shall I redo that?
Yes, we'll group towards Epiphany.
Here we are in the season of Christmas as we transverse towards Epiphany. Isn't that a posh way of saying like move towards?
It's traverse, isn't it? Not transverse.
I think we just need to keep this as it is now, because we're not going to be able to stop laughing. Let's just continue. Keep going.
We're plotting on
heading to Epiphany.
We're heading to Epiphany. Sorry, I'm trying to be all poetic and sweet. We're coming towards Epiphany. We're out of Christmas, but we're still in Christmas. So we are looking at another Christmas special. Today we are looking at season 3, episode 5. Merry Christmas, the episode from 2004. Mixed opinions, I would say, from us. I thought this one was quite a banger, but I believe there are some of my counterparts on this podcast who thought this episode was a little bit lacking somehow. Am I right?
I actually found it really boring.
Yeah, there's bits that are a bit flat. There's some great bits, some really classic bits in it, but there's other bits that I'm a bit like, crack on.
I had to physically stop myself fast forwarding.
No!
At multiple points.
I don't feel that at all. In fact, I was thinking I can't wait to watch this again with a glass of wine, just chilling out when it's not for work.
On that note, as we are having a bit of a festive special, instead of having nativity costumes or fancy jumpers, today we're having a little tipple with our podcasting. So we'll see how it goes again today.
Yeah, poor Toby who does our editing.
So, for example, I did have a Bailey's hot chocolate, but in the planning of this episode, I've managed to drink all of the hot chocolates. Now I just have Bailey's, which is a lovely seasonal drink, I find. What about you, Kate? Give us a bit of ASMR with what you're drinking.
I have a Jubel beer cut with peach, which is one of my favourite beers at the moment. And I haven't opened the can yet, so let's get that lovely pop.
Oh, it's
such a happy sound.
It's delicious.
It's got a nice little...
Yeah.
Well, as for me,
how about you, Jenny?
I'm going for the classic. And actually, as we've been talking, the cork has gently been easing itself out of my lovely bottle of Prosecco. Woo! So Merry Christmas, one and all. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Christmas and Happy
all
New
those
Year.
things.
Ooh,
I mean, technically, we could keep doing Christmas until Candlemas, but I don't think there's enough Christmas episodes.
So, are we all now tippled up?
Tippled and ready to go.
Drinks have been poured. So let's dive into the parish council. And no surprise to any of us, the headline that we begin with is the fact that David's dodging paying tax.
Oh, David.
So
of course he is.
Yes, I shook my fists at this moment and just went...
Is it a legitimate avoidance thing? I bet it probably is.
He claims it's a legitimate tax avoidance measure. I mean, it's definitely something that you would do to not have to pay inheritance tax.
Yeah.
Transferring.
But as the parish council votes, that they just think this is a fancy way of saying avoiding tax.
Yeah,
and it is. I think David's not leaving anytime soon, so it's not I need to pass this property on thing. No. What we have had already in this episode was a lovely opening with some fantastic banter between Jim and Frank and Owen, really utilising Jim's verbal tick.
Yeah.
I really like, who's the best pop act? No, Nolan sisters. Who's the best entertainer? No, Noel Edmonds.
It's good.
It's just top tier. Love it.
Yeah. That's why I love the knowing me, knowing you section,
Yeah.
even though Jenny hates it.
It's so frustrating. It's glorious, but so frustrating. Bless him.
And I can't quite remember how it happens, because it's a little while since I watched this episode, but we somehow get onto the conversation of the second coming. Is that just because they're talking about all things Christmas?
No, so Geraldine comes in late again, because she's been watching the rugby.
Classic Jezza.
Or something else. And anyway, she says that she wants to add a item 1.5 or 0.5 to the agenda.
Yes.
And she says that there's something really important happening, a really important event this year, in which Hugo jumps in and says, is it that Jesus is going to finally be born again and he'll whoop everyone's ass and transform a world of hatred into a world of love?
Yeah, and I'm like, preach it, Hugo.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be wonderful? But that's not the reason that there is a 0.5 item. Actually, it's the fact that it is Geraldine's 10th anniversary of being in Dibley, and what to do about that and how to celebrate that. And the question comes up about whether she's wasted her time being in Dibley for 10 years.
Well, this is interesting because Frank says it's quite moving to think you've been here for 10 years. And she says, oh, in what way moving? And he says, and I think we've all probably had this feel, potentially, or maybe it's just me, lol. But he says, it's moving because you've spent 10 of your perhaps most productive years here, and I just hope it hasn't been a waste of time, or something to that effect. And I think one of the major themes of this episode is, well, what does a successful ministry look like? Like, if Geraldine has had 10 years in Dibley, what has she done? Like, is ministry the sort of thing where you look back over it and go, oh yeah, I've had a really good 10 years. Like, what is a good 10 years? What does that look like? How do you measure that? Now, I'm about to break out into the
There's something
song,
as well,
but...
which gets touched on later in the episode, which is that in a usual career, you'd maybe be promoted. You know, and the way that I understood what Frank was trying to say was not you've wasted your time by being here, but that he's actually quite touched that instead of pursuing a career and looking for a better job, she's actually given some of the most productive years that she'll have in ministry to this one place where she could have been a great big shining star. As we saw in Celebrity Vicars, she did get some momentum going. But she decided that Dibley was the best place for her.
I wonder if it's not just referring to ministry. I wonder if they were referring to her personal life in lots of ways as well. I've just thought of that actually maybe they're just thinking, you're a young woman, why have you spent it all this time with these old fogies? And I think that can be a trend sometimes in churches, that people are surprised that as a young person you want to be involved with them, and why on earth have you come here? And I know that was the case when we moved to Rotherham. Lots of people were like, well, why on earth would you want to come to Rotherham? And we're like, why not? Yeah.
And I definitely I think I have to reassure people that I'm not going to be leaving really soon in my parish. I think they assume that because I'm young and I'm energetic and I've got ideas, that it's just natural that I'm going to want to move on. Whereas, you know, if I'm like Geraldine, I could see myself, you know, if I was like Geraldine, I could be here into my 40s. And you're like, yeah, all my 30s have gone into this one place.
Yeah, time's an interesting thing. I think it's our bishop who said that, like, if you serve any less than 7 years, you kind of do yourself an injustice because you don't get to see, like, the full life cycle of people getting married, having children, you know, burying their grandparents, that kind of thing. So I think it's in our diocese, it's kind of like, I don't know how I understand it anyway, is like you stay for at least 7 years. But one of my predecessors in the place I'm in was here for 25 years. So you just never know, do you, with time?
So, I mean, what would you do if you managed 10 years where you are, or in any place? How would you want to celebrate 10 years? Big party.
It's the only way. A big old knees up.
It's funny, isn't it? Because part of me struggles with the slight ego of that. I can, you know, I don't know. I'm a bit confused by it, really. That it can be a bit like, you know, here's all the wonderful things I've done in the past 10 years. And actually, it's not about that. It's about, you know, what have we done as a whole community? And you know, what has, more importantly, God done in this place? And how have we joined in with what's happening?
Yes.
So I'm thinking a big party, but I'd want to kind of do a bit like what was that show called? Not Days of Our Lives.
This Is Your Life.
This Is Your Life. Different show that. Yeah. This Is Your Life, when you kind of invite back people who are significant members of the community or whatever that might be to kind of share in the past 10 years together.
That's a nice idea. Yeah.
And I was thinking, my gut instinct was a holiday. I'm on a holiday at the end of 10 years.
Time away.
Going on sabbatical.
But then actually, no, you have sabbatical every 7 years. So maybe, I think for me as an introvert who just likes to sleep is my favourite activity. Then,
yeah, it's a funny thing about measuring success, isn't it? Because we do kind of work in numbers in some way, but it's not like you can crunch the numbers and go, oh, I've made this many sales or you know, the product's improved or whatever it might be in kind of different careers. I mean, you could talk about how many, you know, baptisms you've done or weddings or funerals and how engaged you are in the community or how many people have started coming to church, but it's not figures in the way that it's easy to note your success, and success doesn't feel quite like the right way to talk about it either.
I would never want to use church attendance as a metric for success in the church, because that becomes too numbers driven. For me, success is someone coming to me after a service and saying, that was really special for me, I really liked that.
Yeah. I would challenge that slightly with the numbers, because actually I think sometimes as clergy we can not look that way and kind of blinker ourselves. But actually I'm not talking about just like, here I had 50 in my congregation and now I have 52 and now I have 60 and da. But actually there are more people who've started coming and want to know more about God, or have found this place a place where they feel welcome and safe and want to explore a bit more about what it's like to be part of a church family. And part of that does come from numbers. So I think it's people growing in different ways, growing in the number of people coming to church, but church will look different to lots of different people. So it won't necessarily be a Sunday morning, but also growing in kind of love and care for the community and growing in kind of own personal discipleship as well of, you know, how much more do you know about God and how much better is your, you know, spiritual life and this kind of thing.
Throughout this episode, we're thinking about success and success in ministry and a success after 10 years. What would that look like? I think there are 4 or 5 things dropped throughout this episode which hint at what success looks like for Geraldine. So I'm going to, if you don't mind...
Are you going to go for this now?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Or you bring out...
I'm going to sprinkle them through. I'm going to sprinkle them through.
Tease.
So I'm going to be that really annoying voice that pops up and says, can we just pause for a moment here?
Okay then, well, shall we continue then, because I'm desperate to find out. So we join Geraldine in the vicarage with Alice,
wearing fantastic t-shirts.
Fantastic.
It's Alice is wearing Alice is wearing Mary is my homegirl, and Geraldine is wearing Jesus is my homeboy.
So
and
good.
Me and Jenny had these t-shirts.
Yes! I remember desperately searching for them when I was younger. I think I ended up getting mine from eBay. I was so keen to find it. Yeah.
I think mine was a Soul Survivor purchase.
I love that.
Spring Harvest or something like that, having a Jesus is my homeboy tank top.
So cool.
So I guess talking about progress and change and Dibley, and for us, one of the big things about Vicar of Dibley is it's really grown with how the Church of England has changed. It came out as female priests were a brand new thing, and it's journeyed with the Church of England, it's journeyed with us through female bishops and just how the landscape has changed. And Geraldine brings this up, and she talks about how the battlegrounds have moved away from female clergy and towards sexuality.
Yeah, and I think the battlegrounds have moved in some ways, but actually I still think it's one of the big prominent things, you know. Our issues are with women and queer people, which is, you know, it's sad that we keep talking about it. It's important that we keep talking about it, but I think the rest of the world is just like, get on with it, guys. They don't even care anymore. So they talk about, I think they specifically say gay people, don't they? Geraldine talks about a group of people in a closet, doesn't she? And she names Ian McKellen and...
Oh, it's Alice.
Oh, is it Alice who says that?
Alice misunderstands what being in the closet means. She says... That's it. And she talks about it as they are being in the cupboard. So, yeah, who was it she lists, Ruthie? Sorry.
She talks about Ian McKellen, I think, Graham Norton, and there's one other that I can't remember off the top of my head. But that sounds like a great closet to be in, and I quite enjoy hanging out in that closet with that group of people.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then they end up talking a bit about kind of, well, if you were gay, you know, if you like the ladies, who would you go for?
If you were.
Yeah.
There's that classic joke that Alice comes out with. If she were to be a lesbian, then the Queen would be her desire because of the popularity, which is like a bittersweet joke now, obviously, now that our beloved Queen has passed on. But yeah, that's one of Alice's kind of iconic jokes and iconic moments, really.
And I think we want to give a shout out, don't we, to some of the kind of queer people who are hinted at in this, and kind of led the way in lots of this. So it talks about in the episode about having an openly gay bishop. Now, at the time, there had been a chap called Geoffrey John who was openly gay and had been recommended for the post of being Bishop of Reading. So it was Bishop Designate of Reading was the title. But eventually the poor chap had to step down because he was getting so much hate and flack about being an openly gay bishop. So he started the movement, and then eventually, this was in 2003, in 2016, finally, Nicholas Chamberlain, who was the Bishop of Grantham, he had become a bishop but then was outed later on and came out as gay. And so he was the first gay bishop in the Church of England. I'm sure there were others
first openly gay bishop in a relationship in the Church of England. Let's cover our backs.
Yeah, in case we're in the confessional next time. Yeah. I'm sure there were others in the wider kind of Anglican communion, so people are Anglican across the world. But he was the first one in the Church of England. And so they are pioneers, and it's a hard place to be in.
Yeah, it is, and it's annoying how it's a different rule because of their seniority. And it's so recent. Well, do you know what I mean? It's like, why is this a thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's the rule for everyone that you, in the Church of England currently, you cannot be married to a same-sex partner. You can be in a civil partnership.
As long as you're celibate.
Yes, the assumption is that you're celibate. But you cannot be married to a same-sex partner.
So another shout-out in this conversation is to Eddie Izzard.
Who, Alice predicted the future. And all of this bit that they're talking about and joking about, I think just shows the closeness between Alice and Geraldine, and just the closeness that comes with female relationships, I think, in lots of ways. And it reminds me of some of the conversations I had with my housemates at uni. There were three women living together, and goodness me, some of the stuff that came out, I learned a lot in those 2 years. Thanks, Charlie and Steph, you babes. And just, I came out my shell so much more in that, and just felt liberated to be a woman around them. And I think, sisters supporting sisters is a great thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I wonder if I could then just pause us very briefly and say maybe this is one of the first pointers in Geraldine's success of her ministry, that not only she is Alice's vicar, but she is an actual best friend, soul sister, like partner for life kind of thing here. I think it's really lovely.
Life partner.
I think I get that vibe. They go together, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean,
They'd be terrible in a relationship, but they have this kind of
they vibe
shared,
well,
deep relationship.
Yeah,
don't
definitely.
they?
I count that as a success for sure.
It's very much, for me, it feels very much like a sister relationship.
Yeah.
But as you said, they probably would not do well as romantic partners or life partners in that sense. But they very much feel like big sister, little sister, best friends, where there is that tension. But we've seen Alice grow and be more confident in speaking up against Geraldine as well. And it just it makes me think of sisters' relationship.
True.
Or really, really good friends, actually. You know, sometimes you're so close to a friend, it reaches that point where you love each other, but you hate each other, but you love each other. You know?
Yeah. And I think also final shout out for this scene is just the word magnificent. I mean...
Can we say that?
Let's be honest.
Let's be greedy. Yeah, so good.
Let's get back to the parish council.
Oh,
Woo!
let us.
And they are talking a bit about 10-year anniversary, and one of the first ideas that they come up with is getting Geraldine sainted, which
Not ideal.
She's not Catholic, so that's difficult. Although in the Church of England we do have saints, but it's not as common anymore, and we kind of use different words now.
Yeah,
don't we?
we'd be more likely to add someone as a commemoration. Jenny's flashing us. Jenny's showing off the fantastic book we have called Celebrating the Saints, which is also within reaching distance of me because I was preparing a St Andrew's service last week.
Ideal. Yeah, there is. We have a saint like almost every day, or a notable person.
Yeah.
And today is one of my favourite saints, the one that we happen to be recording on the 6th of December, like a month in advance of this.
Yeah, I feel like that's outing ourselves for either being organised or desperate.
Today is the day of St Nicholas as we're recording it, and one of my favourite things about St Nicholas is not that he gave out presents to children, but that it is rumoured that in the Council of Nicaea, which is a very important council that happened early on in the church, that he punched a heretic. And that is, can you just imagine Santa punching a heretic? I love it. So, I know, I find that the Catholic thing is something that I get asked quite a lot and confused about. You know, you're a woman, but are you Catholic? How can you be a Rev? And
you see, what I get is, oh, so you're Catholic, and there's no sense of why that might be weird. So I end up giving them a weird look, like, did you start saying if I was Catholic? And we both look at each other confused, and they say, I'm a woman and a priest.
Yeah. That doesn't happen in the Catholic Church currently. Who knows?
Currently happen in the Catholic Church,
as in Roman Catholic Church.
Roman Catholic Church. We are all part of one Holy Apostolic Catholic Church, of course.
Catholic with a small c. I wonder if this is confusing to normal people.
Of course, it is.
I think this entire conversation
is
like,
it is.
What
So let's
is
move
going
on.
Let's move on to Kirsty Young.
Yeah.
They talk about Kirsty Young, and I wanted to mention Kirsty Young because going back to the previous scene, Kirsty Young, I think, has one of the sexiest voices ever, and I've got a bit of a crush on Kirsty Young.
Who is Kirsty Young?
She's on Radio 4 quite a lot and that kind of thing, and she's got a bit of a Scottish lilt to her voice, and she's got a lovely voice as Kirsty Young. Ooh. She did quite a lot of the royal stuff when Queen Elizabeth died. She was a bit of a royal correspondent with that, and she's just she'd make my list.
How does she feature in this scene?
They talk about her for some reason. I can't remember.
Is it one of Owen's suggestions for strippers?
Oh, Owen,
quite
just need
possibly.
to bring it down. I was thinking about how, lovely lilting, gentle voice, and there we go. Owen brings her in for her body yet again.
I'm going to have to find you a radio show with Kirsty Young's voice on, so you could have a listen and just get soothed by the voice of Kirsty Young.
That sounds Glorious. But that is the hilarious thing, I suppose, of this scene, isn't it? They're all trying to find ways to celebrate Geraldine's 10 years. And is it Hugo, I think, that comes up with a wonderful idea, isn't it?
Yeah, Hugo suggests that they all have a bit of a competition, writing a new carol to be sung at midnight mass, which Geraldine calls the God of Vision Song Contest.
I love that so much.
Brilliant.
So good.
And shout out to Hugo's rap.
Shows mad beatboxing skills.
Yeah, but I thought let's take this opportunity to ask, what's your favourite carol?
Ooh.
Oh, so tricky.
Shall I begin?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think I've got two favourite carols. I really like, and I cannot remember why this is one of my favourites, but God Rest You Merry Gentlemen. I don't know why, I love it. But then also, and I know why I love this one, the Sussex carol.
Oh, yeah.
On Christmas night, our Christians sing to heaven, use the angels ring, da-da. And the reason I love it so much is we used to have Beatrix Potter stories, like animated Beatrix Potter on videotape, and there was the one about the mice.
Yes,
the Tailor of
Gloucester.
And the Sussex Carol was in that animated
nice.
story.
I'd forgotten. Oh, you've just transported me back to a much previous age.
That's sweet. I'm in a bit of a haunted mood. Not haunted. I mean, like hauntingly beautiful when it comes to carols. So I'm going to pick two. O Come Emmanuel. I know it's classic Advent, so we're beyond that now. I know, sorry, but absolutely love. In the Bleak Midwinter. Massive love for that. In particular, the final verse.
Really? In the Bleak Midwinter bothers me slightly for the lyrics. Snow had fallen, snow on snow, snow on snow.
It's actually snow on snow on snow.
You just think, could you not have come up with some of the words?
No, it's a poetic way to describe how thick the snow was. There was snow, but
there wasn't any snow at the nativity.
No.
It was probably Maytime, wasn't it? The first genuine nativity.
Well, also, I doubt there was any snow in.
Guys, can I just remind you the final verse? What can I give him? Poor as I am. If I was a shepherd, I would bring a lamb. It's beautiful. If I was a wise man, I would do my part. What can I give him?
Give him my heart.
That is moving. There is no greater lyric than that.
But also, it didn't snow at the nativity.
Yeah. I look past the technical to get to the heart of the carol, if you will. The heart of the carol. Anyway, Ruthie, what are you loving?
I think I'm just going to have to go Hark the Herald. And when you've got the final verse with all the different melodies all coming together, and it's just beautiful, and I love singing that.
So the thing about Christmas carols is, I think clergy, you learn what your favourite is, because many Christmas carols are factually inaccurate.
Yes.
I know I've teased Jenny about In the Bleak Midwinter, but it goes even further in terms of kind of heresies sometimes.
And just like the is it Away in a Manger where the little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes, and I just think, as someone who's had a small child, that is baloney.
and then also Away in a Manger,
Silent Night, no.
We're not Christian children all should be.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Oh my goodness. From Once in Our David City, like there's just. Don't you love it when a carol's it's sounding beautiful and then it suddenly throws a Victorian lesson at you? Oh, we're enjoying Christmas. Be quiet, child. How dare you have fun on Christmas Day? Yeah. Even Jesus was quiet on Christmas.
Brilliant.
Jesus also was seen and not heard until he was 30.
Oh dear, so they're going to do this competition and write all these different Christmas carols, and we'll come back to that later. And now we're back at the vicarage, and Geraldine, is being a little bit, well, a bit of a perv, really.
She's enjoying God's creation.
Yeah, so Geraldine is watching the rugby and David comes in and Geraldine keeps watching the rugby, which, frankly, is just rude. But then also, I was thinking this. If the genders were switched around, if it was a male vicar watching a female sport and a female...
beach volleyball.
Yeah, and a female parishioner came in and that male vicar was, one, vocal about his appreciation of these athletes' bodies, and then two, wouldn't stop looking at that programming while this other person was there and trying to talk to them.
Creepy.
It's because Geraldine's Geraldineness allows her to get away with it and makes it funny for the Vicar of Dibley. But you're absolutely right. If that was real, it would be like a I need to call the bishop kind of thing, rather than an endearing little quirk of, someone's day.
Well, it's a bit of a double standard, really.
Yeah, definitely. And David's come over to ask her what she would like as a present.
You say ask her what she would like. I think he kind of knows what she's...
He kind of knows what he wants. And, he says, anything at all. And she goes, I quite like a car. And he goes, oh, smaller. And she comes up with that she really likes some reindeer, light up reindeer for the vicarage lawn. And he's like, how about a Bible? And I think all of us at that moment went, I've been bought so many Bibles for things. Great book, love it. I don't need a new Bible every time I start a new job.
Quick challenge. How many Bibles do you have within reach of you right now?
2, 4, 5. At least 5. 5.
I can quickly count 13. Okay, as linguist, I have many different translations. Some of those are in Greek and Hebrew. But
still, that's. I mean, are we all singing our studies?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sat in
Oh
my
wait,
spouse's
no, I've just spotted the children's Bibles. That is 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. I'm close to 30 with all the children's Bibles.
So if I was going to buy you a leather-bound illustrated Bible, you would not be chuffed diddlied.
There's a bit of a conversation about being promoted, isn't there? And
yeah,
it's something that we don't really do in the same way that you would do in other companies. No. There's kind of jobs that would be seen as a step up in different ways, but actually, for a lot of clergy, the vast majority, you go from vicar job to vicar job to vicar job to vicar job.
Yeah.
And we are actively discouraged from seeing the careers, as it were, as an upward ladder.
Yeah.
As much as in a way they are, because you can advance in seniority. We are encouraged to think of ourselves still as we're all priests, we're all deacons.
Yeah.
Even if you become an archdeacon or indeed a bishop. Talking of which, I have in my little notebook Archbishop Rowan with hearts next to it.
Yeah, David name drops, doesn't he?
David name drops Rowan Williams. Well, he doesn't actually name him, but Rowan Williams was the Archbishop at the time that this episode came out.
Archbishop of Canterbury.
Archbishop of Canterbury, indeed.
Because there are many archbishops now. And then David goes, doesn't he, after name dropping. And who turns up at the door but the glorious, beautiful Rachel Hunter.
Yeah.
And oh boy, is it awkward.
Oh my goodness.
We're getting, I definitely got some Kylie Minogue vibes here from when Kylie turned up out of the blue and was like, can I just borrow this house? Or like...
But
she was there to see
Geraldine
Elton.
didn't perv over Kylie Minogue, and she really does.
That's true. Well, she's just flustered. She's excited and flustered, and she does feel awkward because of the conversation she had with Alice, I think.
It still comes across as super creepy, though.
She does the thing that I have definitely done before, where she says, "Oh, me and she says in it, me and my virgin were just talking about you the other day. And then she remembers the topic of the conversation and has to quickly backtrack and come up with an alternative that they've talked about, which I've definitely done in, gone, I was thinking about you the other day, and actually you've had a weird dream involving them, and you can't explain that, oh yes, we lived on Mars together, or whatever it might be that you've had a weird dream of.
That's funny.
And Rachel's popped over and has trusted the vicarage as a safe place to go because she's got a wedding in the next village and needed to change, and so thought the vicarage would be an okay place to go, which is lovely.
It is nice, yeah.
And we have the Alice appears later on and is bamboozled,
Yeah,
we should say.
Because Rachel, as much as she trusts Geraldine, very weirdly comes down in just her underwear.
To ask to borrow the lipstick, it's not just a random appearance.
Well, but
Yeah.
you'd at the very least wrap yourself in a blanket. Like in a stranger's house, I would not walk around in my underwear. I know she's body confident, but
I also think probably in her career she's used to just wandering around like that, and then being staff and people around that she'd just wander around in her underwear, and that's just how she has to work. But I think if that was any of us, we'd put on a dressing gown.
Well, you'd be a bit like, oh, not quite sure where to look, but...
Or you'd put your dress on and then ask for the lipstick.
Yeah. yeah.
But it makes for a brilliant comedic moment when she comes down the stairs in her underwear and says to Alice about, oh, Geraldine was telling me what you were talking about and I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
And Geraldine's lied and said that they were talking about going to one of her fashion shows instead of saying that they'd like to spend some intimate time with her. So Alice is completely bamboozled and awestruck and doesn't know what to say.
And convinced that Geraldine has been able to arrange the thing that they were talking about. That's impressive. It was literally the day before.
But then Alice, this is a trend for Alice. She definitely thinks Geraldine has incredible pulling power.
Yeah.
Because isn't there an earlier episode where Geraldine talks about
David name drops, doesn't he?
crush,
That he knows
and Alice
the
just
Archbishop.
assumes that they actually dated.
Yes.
No.
It was Hugo. He goes, did you know the vicar
Oh yeah, Hugo
Archbishop
did.
of Canterbury.
went out with James... Is it James
'Cause there
Dean?
are
No.
No,
many
it wasn't James
archbishops
Dean.
now.
It was someone, but yeah.
Because he's apparently they were together.
And
that couple-
Geraldine
they
says, good
split up."
morals, good beard.
Yeah, that couple, and that the reason was because he wasn't good enough for
You're related to
Geraldine,
one.
wasn't he? But that couple definitely believe Geraldine has incredible pulling power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, she does.
Yeah.
And so after being awestruck by all that, Rachel leaves the house and is met by her date, and Rachel makes a comment about lovely vicar, obviously gay or something like that, and Geraldine hears this from the door and is like, wait, no. And that's another common trend we find in, if you are a single woman in the church, people just make the assumption that you're a lesbian.
It can certainly happen, yeah.
So we head back to Horton Manor, and it turns out that David isn't retired, which I think is something that we all assumed, because he's just come back from a conference or something like that. And now that Alice and Hugo own the house, Alice has done a little bit of redecorating. So David, tired from this conference, opens his living room to discover pink. Fluorescent pink everywhere.
And Alice describes her theme as Victorian meets My Little Pony.
What a theme.
It is a
Great
good theme.
theme choice.
It's
And
a bit of a
pink,
shocker.
And it's fluffy, and it looks like David's genuinely about to have a heart attack.
And what makes it so funny is it looks so comfy, but David looks so uncomfortable, just kind of perched on this really fluffy sofa, like he's about to have a heart attack.
Oh, bless him.
Yes. And Alice, following her conversation at the vicarage, is started to do a bit of gossiping and suggest that Geraldine is gay. And again, a common theme of gossiping and misunderstanding that happens in ministry. But yeah, so David and Hugo now think that Geraldine is gay.
And David, being David, I think we were very close to having a reprise of the parish council writing a letter to the bishop again. He takes it to a parish council.
Do you think so?
Yeah, that's how I saw it going. He was anticipating the rest of the parish council to be up in arms. But when he brings it to a parish council in the next scene, no one cares except him.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't read it like that. I thought it was trying to save her and like just keep it as a secret that we all know but don't say anything about. Because this is post Frank coming out, but we think the parish council now know, but we're not sure. And I think there's kind of bits of innuendo that Frank says. But the parish council aren't fussed. And I wonder if there's a gender difference here as well. That actually, if it was a male priest coming out as gay, that's... I'm going to use sweeping terms, which I do not believe at all. I just want to say it like this. If it was a male priest coming out as gay, that would be disgusting. But as a female priest coming out as gay or as a lesbian, that's kind of hot and turns them on.
Oh, whoa. Interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those trends in popular culture that exoticizes women who are attracted to women and makes it kind of, oh, it's really hot. but until they're actually in a real loving, normal, actual committed relationship, and then it becomes something. It's like, how dare you not involve a man in this?
I do hear all of that, but I wonder if it's a bit like they know and love Geraldine and they are just in a place where they're happy to accept her kind of thing, like whatever the weather.
Yeah, I think the parish council, they literally just do not care because they love Geraldine, and whether she likes men or women or both or all or none, they don't. It doesn't really factor for them. I think it factors a little bit for David, but I wonder if that's more because he has a bit of an attraction for her himself.
Maybe.
Yeah. And also kind of seeing the village as a really important thing, and what will the attitude of the village be, and what's our standing in the village, and all that kind of thing. I think that's a big thing. And I love that in this scene, it appears that Mrs. Cropley has been outed as a lesbian, but actually...
Before she retired.
She was just a librarian.
Before she retired, she was just a librarian.
That's great.
Oh my goodness.
I also love how David's like, okay, everybody, we've talked about this. Don't mention it once Geraldine's here. She arrives and they all just stare at her. Yeah. And then everything she mentions, they bring back to lesbians. Two women want to start a film club. Oh, it's a lesbian. Two lesbians, is it? Starting a lesbian film club, is it? And she's like, hold on, sensing a theme here. And I think all of us picked up on the fact that actually there has been this kind of undertone about, Anglican gay clergy, Anglican gay bishops, that sort of talk about where the church is at. And the height of that conversation in 2004. But what we all noticed is that at the end of this parish council meeting, Geraldine picks up on the vibe, she puts it together, and she just addresses it directly. Hugo, has Alice been spreading little bits of gossip here and there? And she puts an end to the rumour that she is gay, and then that's the whole plotline dropped then, isn't it? So we've kind of unpacked themes around it. We know where Geraldine's at. We get a flavour of where the the parish council are at. But then it's just dropped as a kind of storyline.
Which for me felt really weird. I think it is one of the reasons why this episode doesn't quite hit as well for me, because I'm so used to Dibley episodes bringing all the plot lines together at the end in a really satisfying way. A plot, B plot, and if there's a C plot. Whereas in this episode, maybe because it's a bit longer than our usual episode, it feels like this plot was built and built and built, but then it's just lost. It's not brought back at the end for a nice little callback. Like, I think there was an opportunity
Rachel turned up at the service.
She mentions someone's boob job right at the end, and I think, you could have done something with that.
Yeah.
But they didn't.
And so we move on, and we're now in the vestry again. And it's the God of Vision song contest, and we're hearing about some of the hymns that they've done. And Jim comes out with the most fantastic hymn. He decides he wants to sing about something that isn't mentioned in other hymns, and so he sings about the actual birth itself. And it's quite a creative angle, really.
It is.
It is good.
It's graphic, very graphic.
But it's true. It's the untold part of the Nativity.
It is. I'm just disappointed that his carol does not include the word Noel at any point.
No.
Because it just writes itself.
Yeah.
No,
that is
no,
a
no,
missed...
no, Noel. No, 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 Noel.
Yeah. That would have been brilliant.
Oh, it would have been great.
But yes, that's what Jim has gone for, and we find out later that is the chosen carol, which we will hear later on. So back to the vicarage, and Geraldine's preparing for the next lot of services and the rest of the stuff to do with Christmas, and it's a weird time for us, and there's lots of things going on. So I've already mentioned Christingles. What other kind of services do we do around this neck of the woods?
Carol services.
Yeah.
Of varying types. I have one which is beer and carols in the pub, one which is carols in the churchyard, outdoors.
That's great.
Then there's carols by candlelight, 9 lessons in carols, and a carol service which is also with communion, and it's a morning service.
Oh wow!
Wow.
I have 5 carol services. Go me. And I've made sure that each one is distinct, so when I'm talking about them, I can remember what they all are.
That's clever. Well done. We get nativities as well, don't we?
Yeah, crib service, just currently in the process of because we're recording this in December during Advent, and the process of choosing a story for the crib service that's going to be acted out.
I love those when kids come dressed up, and you know sometimes they're dressed as shepherds, other times it's Spider-Man, and I just think that's great.
5 Marys.
Yeah, exactly.
What else? Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
We've got not the Midnight Mass at one of my churches. It's a 9 o'clock Midnight Mass.
Oh,
very sensible.
sensible time. Then 2 Christmas Day services. I'm only taking one of them. Let me just. I do have support, by the way. It's not just me doing a marathon.
There's stuff in schools as well, and sometimes in care homes or other kind of places of significance in the community.
School nativities, preschool nativities. I've had 3 Christingles.
Yeah. Christmas tree festivals.
We had that this weekend.
Yeah.
We have a Light Up a Life, which is an annual service for the bereaved, which happens at the start of Advent.
That's lovely.
Some churches, I've previously done a blue Christmas service.
Oh yeah. Those having a blue Christmas.
Yeah.
What about you, Jenny? Any others to add?
No, just all of the above. The big thing we do that's a bit unique to our village is Carols on the Square, where we literally shut down the centre of our village, including all the roads, on the 24th at 7:15, and we have like an hour-long service. I was just thinking with the, as well as Advent carols and lessons in carols. Carols on the Square is our big one. But yeah, same assemblies and Christingles and crib services, all beautiful.
A messy church.
Oh, cool.
Messy nativity.
I love Christmas. Christmas is a fantastic time, and Advent is, because everyone expects you to talk about Jesus.
Yeah.
And you're really allowed
Advent
to
carols.
go all out telling the Christmas story to people.
It's brill. It's busy,
brilliant.
but it's brill.
Absolutely. And then after Christmas Day, most clergy are going to have a few days hibernating. Even if you're a massive extrovert, most clergy are going to be napping on Boxing Day.
If not,
that's why it's always great when it's Christmas Day on a Sunday. Christmas Day on a Saturday is the worst. Then you've got church the next day.
However, I'd like to counter with, I think the worst I did was when Christmas was a Tuesday, because you can have Sunday, which is busy because it's a normal Sunday.
Yeah.
Then you have Christmas Eve, which is busy, and then you have Christmas Day. That's a horrible. Whereas Christmas on a Sunday means that if your day's off on a Friday, you get a Friday off. And Christmas Eve is Saturday, and then Christmas Day is Sunday, and then you get Boxing Day completely off.
So it's a busy old time for all of us. And in the midst of this, it seems that Geraldine's also applying for a new job, which the job title is Archdeaconess, which is something that we don't think exists. And we have checked with the bishop.
Yes, we called my dad. And he confirms that archdeaconess has never existed. So I misheard when I was watching it, and partly it's because I was bored and was a bit distracted. I just heard it as deaconess, which really confused me. So before women could be ordained priest, there was an order called the deaconesses, where you could be ordained as a deaconess in the Church of England.
They had to have the S so you knew you were a girl.
So people had to know that you were a girl, and this was a special thing. So I was thinking, is Geraldine applying to be a deaconess in Canterbury? But no, an archdeaconess, which I then thought, well, does that mean like an archdeacon but for deaconesses?
Who
I
knows?
think all of this plays into the fact that she's thinking about her 10 years here. Has it been a waste of time? And is there something else she should be doing? Should she be looking to rise through the more senior ranks? And one thing I forgot to mention, I said to you I was going to be dropping in some little sentimental thoughts about Geraldine's success in her ministry, and I forgot one. We're in the vicarage at the moment, but in the previous scene, when she's talking to David in the vicarage, we kind of got quite distracted by her watching the rugby and perhaps not behaving so appropriately then, and the leather-bound Bible. But as David Horton is leaving the vicarage, he makes a joke to Geraldine, and she laughs her head off. He laughs his head off. And she says to him, you've definitely improved, In these 10 years, you've definitely improved. Aww. And I wondered if one of the things that marks Geraldine's success in ministry is the softening of the heart of her parishioners. Yeah. And they trust her, they can make jokes, but it's the softening of the heart that I'm interested in. But I guess this feeds back into the whole, here she is in her vicarage and she's applying for different roles because maybe she's feeling actually that's not enough. And for me, I wonder if for the viewer, it's really obvious that her work has been amazing. She's so well loved. She's so liked. She's had so much success, but perhaps she's starting to doubt it a bit more or to think what else she should be doing.
What's actually interesting about that particular application is that it seems David Horton has given it to her not to get rid of her, but because he has ambitions for her, and he thinks that she could be a big shining star in the Church of England.
What, David gives her the application?
Yeah, she says David gave it to her.
Yes. Yeah.
I wondered if she was just playing it off.
No, because he has a link to Canterbury, as it's already been mentioned. So I got the impression that he's found out about this job through his old college friend, and has passed it on to Geraldine and says, you should consider this. I'll put a good word in for you.
Oh, so I thought that she was just saying it as a way to, bat away the question from Alice. So I assumed that Geraldine has found this job and thinking that she's wasted her time in Dibley and needs to find a new job and use the excuse of David to bat away Alice's questions.
No, I think the deciding factor for me is that it's in Canterbury. And that's why for me it leans more on David to actually.
But why would David want to get rid of her?
I don't think he does, but I think he loves her so much in that kind of esteem way that he wants her to be the best she can, and he knows that she has great potential and that she's worrying about, have I wasted my time? And we know he doesn't really esteem Dibley very much. And I think there's a sense of him wanting Geraldine to do her best, and he'll be sad to see her leave. But he also wants to see her shine, and if she's feeling like she can't shine in Dibley, then he wants to help her find a place where she can.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Speaking of shiny, and moving on to tempered.
I knew
Did you like that link? That was quite good, wasn't it?
That's lovely, delicious.
Owen and Jim turn up to talk about the party, and they've come up with a great idea that they're going to make a chocolate baby Jesus as a present for Geraldine. And Geraldine has understandable qualms about this. And then they came up instead with the idea of, what if it was chocolate baby Judas? Would you then eat baby Judas? Let's put it out there. Chocolate Jesus, yay or nay, would you eat it?
No. However, right. No, right, don't judge me too quickly on that. However, I do feel like there are Christmas treats, which, like, because we eat chocolate Santas, right?
All day.
Do chocolate baby Jesuses exist in that kind of small... The chocolate itself is shapeless but wrapped in foil. So I want to say no, but I'm worrying that I might have had a baby Jesus without critically thinking about it.
I just can't. I'm concerned about myself because my answer is yes. I would eat baby Jesus chocolate. I don't see anything wrong. It wouldn't be my go-to snack. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just chocolate, isn't it?
Would you? Do you want to take a bite out of Jesus's arm?
Out
of any chocolate
with a
baby,
delicious praline centre. Yes,
out of any chocolate baby, like.
Yeah, chocolate. I don't know. Yeah, but being faced with it in the real, I was going to say in the real flesh, in the moist,
chocolatey flesh,
chocolatiness. Yeah. maybe I would shy away, but I don't think I would.
Maybe Geraldine is thinking she knows with how she is around chocolate. She would like gnaw on that baby's chocolate arm, and so she's thinking, I can't let people see this.
But something better is coming. That's what we learn.
Better is coming.
Yes. Even though we think the baby chocolate baby Jesus might be the best thing, something better is coming. But
someone is not coming.
Oh, that breaks my heart.
Frank has decided he won't come to the party because he's boring and he will ruin it if he comes to the party. And that's the best present that he can give Geraldine.
Oh, it's so sad.
So just chipping in with marks of success. Not that Frank isn't coming, but for me, a mark of success is that Jim and Owen told Geraldine that Frank wasn't feeling happy. Because so often in parishes, people don't tell you when someone is upset or has their feelings hurt.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a big issue and you just never knew about it. So it's so wonderful that they actually tell her because they know that she'll be able to do something and they trust her to be able to make it right.
Yeah. So she invites Frank over to talk it through and he's like, I'm just so boring. No one wants me there. And Geraldine, bless her, breathes in and says, actually, I was hoping you'd be there, Frank, because I was hoping you'd give a speech. And she knows that's the only way she'll get him there and realises that she's in for it potentially with the speech. But she asks him to do a short speech and Frank is honoured and goes away to prepare.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, a mark of good ministry, is even when you know that someone else could do better, including yourself, choosing to invite someone to do something because it will build them up and it will encourage them is such an important thing to do. Yes, someone else could do it more professionally or more, more engagingly, but actually it's so important to Frank to feel like he's being listened to, and it pays off. It hugely pays off in the end.
Yeah. Not to blow my own trumpet, but this Sunday I invited someone who just happened to be there early to come up and do the reading, and he's a gentleman who's older in years, and I asked him to come and do a reading before we lit the Advent wreath, and he looked quite nervous about it, so I did say, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. But bless him, he did do it, and at the end he came up to me and said, well, that was a big step for me. I've never done something like that before, and I feel like I've done something good today. And I just thought, bless you, that's amazing. Yeah. So we go to the party at Horton Manor, and we are greeted by a host of mini Alices and Hugos. They're just dressed exactly like their parents, and it's all tutus and tweed, and I love it. It's
very cute.
And we see all 10 of the mini Alices and Hugos, and it's great. And so we go into the party. It's very exciting, and Frank does his speech. And everyone slumps on stuff prepared for it, and goodness me, is it a cracking speech?
It is a cracking speech. Right, I'm going to dive in here with one of my sprinklings about Geraldine's success again.
You sprinkle.
I'm going to sprinkle because Frank says a speech. Everyone's getting ready to slumber because he starts with, I was born in. And everyone's like, oh no. And he ends it, he basically says, I'm going to review all of the clergy I've ever known in my whole entire lifetime. But he says, I reviewed them all, and Geraldine, you're simply the best, or something, sorry, I'm not doing it justice, but something simple, short and sweet like that. And I mark this again as one of Geraldine's, successes of ministry. He keeps it short because she asked him to do this thing. And again, it comes down to the relationship that she has with him and how he trusts her. She asked him to keep it short, and he did. So at the end of the speech, everyone goes, oh my goodness, Frank, best speech of your life, mate. Oh, lovely job, lovely job. Then he goes, oh, thank you. He's like, yeah, Vicar asked me to keep it short. And I was like, yes, that is another sprinkling of Geraldine's success. And trust between them. I love it.
And we go from the speech into one of the gifts that have been done, and instead of going for a chocolate Jesus, they've gone for a chocolate fountain, and it is like a giant chocolate fountain.
Man, it looks good.
So big. Fun fact, they tried using chocolate for it, but it just wouldn't flow properly, so it's chocolate custard in there instead of chocolate.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is a fun fact.
Still pretty yummy.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I would
delicious.
drink that up. Drink that up.
Now, would you put your head in?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't put my head in. I would do if I was on my own, like I would have 100% shame driven. So I wouldn't put my cup in with other people there. If I was left unattended, I might put some spoons in there, maybe a cup. But I would never put my head in. I can't stand being sticky.
It ruins it for everyone else.
Not very hygienic.
No one else can have a dip in that. Yeah,
her hair's going to be in that for other people.
This is why I think this episode is fab. This is one of the iconic moments from Vicar of Dibley, isn't it? Let's face it. Because she dives in head first, and then she hasn't... David has hinted there's a second gift. But then the second gift is announced. And it's not
a special guest.
It's a special guest. It's not the best time to be covered in chocolate, might say.
Earlier in the episode, Geraldine has fantasised about meeting the Archbishop of Canterbury, and she's talked about them catching each other's eyes over a crowded synod. Eyes locked across a crowded synod. And then in comes someone who's not Archbishop Rowan Williams.
I think it's quite a good Rowan.
Again, good impression.
As an actor, yeah.
Except he's not Rowan.
He hasn't got the wild eyebrows right.
But a decent impression of a facsimile of Archbishop Rowan Williams enters the room, having made time on Christmas Eve to answer the call of a good of an old friend. And Geraldine is covered in chocolate.
She has slicked her hair back from the chocolate, and she drops to her knees and says, hello to the Archbishop, and then invites him to lick her if he so desires, which is a really weird thing to say.
Yeah. It's a free
Please
country.
Yourself.
Kneels before him.
Yes, so good.
Kneels before him. Most bishops, I know, don't like people kneeling to them.
People have a weird relationship with archbishops, don't they?
Yeah.
And how you act around an archbishop is odd. And I've been fortunate, sorry to name drop, but I've been fortunate in my working life to have had a working relationship with the Archbishop of, the past two Archbishops of York. And yes, it's a little bit weird when you meet them for the first time, but actually they're just humans.
Yeah.
I had a great chat about the football recently with Archbishop Stephen, and they're human beings, but we can get really weird around them. Like, I remember fangirling in front of the Archbishop of Canterbury when it was Justin Welby. So
yeah, there's something, and I think the thing about this episode is it's played very much as if you want to get promoted, you need to get noticed by the Archbishop of Canterbury or the very senior staff.
Yeah.
So for someone who is watching this, who's perhaps not in the kind of either ordained or formal leadership in the church, they might think, oh, this is Geraldine's one big shot to get noticed and promoted, which perhaps comes out a little bit in the next scene as well. It's kind of played it's really important for this to happen. But you're right. Just humans at the end of the day.
So after this embarrassing moment with the Archbishop, Geraldine returns to the vicarage And I think we all empathise with her. She ends up having 3 bottles of wine, doesn't she? She has a glass or so of wine.
But the glass fits a whole bottle in it. I know the next scene is really bad and it should have warned me, but I desperately want one of these glasses that fits a whole bottle of wine, just for that hilarious effect of pouring it all in.
And we shouldn't condone binge drinking in any way, shape or form, but no. I empathise with her, and I've been there where you've just had a really, really crappy day and you just want to find oblivion in some way. And it's not the best way to do it, but I get why she does it.
Yeah.
She has completely forgotten what day it is, and it is Christmas Eve.
Yes, which, before we get into her particular circumstances, what do you do in those hours after, whether it's a crib service or drinks with the parish and the Christmas Eve midnight mass service? Because you've got... So my Christmas Eve... I finish my crib service, probably I'll finish about 5 p.m. Someone else takes the 9 o'clock service, and then I'm not on again, as it were, until I need to be at church at 11 p.m.
So I have the family tradition of every Christmas Eve we will watch a Muppet Christmas Carol.
Aww.
So at some point during that day, I will find a spot, and it's normally in that in-between spot between doing a midnight mass and that kind of thing, of watching a Muppet Christmas Carol.
That's nice.
But tactical naps are sometimes a good idea too.
Yeah. Do you change into your pajamas, or is it easier to stay in normal
clothes
work
mode
because it's harder to get out of? It's harder to change out of pajamas.
Yeah.
And do you participate in Clergy Malt Club?
I don't like whiskey. But so Clergy Malt Club is a little bit of a thing where after you do your midnight mass service, everyone, well, not everyone, some people have a bit of a tipple afterwards. But yes, I would participate in having a little tipple post, because you're like, oh, it's Christmas.
Yeah, it's a lovely feeling. I'm back to back on Christmas Eve day, because we have our crib service rehearsal at 3, the actual thing at 4, carols on the square at 7:15, but we're all there from like 6:30, and then that will finish about like I don't know. Everyone will have left by 8:30, 9. So then you've literally got about an hour really until you're back in church. So it's only what do you do between 9 and 10, or like 8:30 till about 8:30, 9ish until 11 o'clock-ish, which really does comprise of maybe having a little tipple, but mostly eating, just having some form of dinner. I remember a couple of years ago, it comprised of me just practicing the 8:30 BCP, like very traditional liturgy with lots of thous and these, and I was competing with my family as to who could say it first time off the best. Turns out my sister actually reads traditional, like formal liturgy much better than I do. So that was.
We'll get her ordained.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
So Geraldine has filled her time with wine, forgetting that she has a midnight mass.
Gutted.
And then Alice turns up, and Geraldine's a bit like, I've just had a little bit to drink. I'm a little bit drunk. I'm
pretty serious trouble now. I'm pretty serious trouble now.
Some fantastic drunk acting.
So good.
It's brilliant.
Drunk Geraldine is amazing. Like
she does so good. Yeah.
Oh, I do like to be beside Susan.
And so Alice tries to sober up with putting her head in the water and all this kind of thing, but it's not working, and so they head over to the church. They're getting her ready in the vestry.
Her little face.
She's
gone.
hammered.
Yeah.
She's wearing the wrong colour stole for the time of year, which is the scarf we wear with clergy vestments. She's wearing a green, and she should be in white by this point. If it's
to be honest, her green stole shouldn't even be out, because up to this point she should have been wearing purple. So why she has a green stole on her?
What a mess!
I know.
And Alice, I think, is very clever, actually, in her line that she comes up with at the beginning of the church service, where she says to the whole congregation there that the vicar has decided to highlight the issue of binge drinking, and so is acting drunk for this service.
Very good.
And it was quite a smart idea for Alice.
For Alice.
For Alice. But it does not go well. She walks her way through the choir.
Oh, it's so funny. She was...
I was going to say, like, it seems like this is... No one can be that drunk, but she's had 3 bottles of wine. She is blackout drunk at this point.
Yeah.
She is absolutely... She's still in her PJs, which I love. Under a cassock, you can just see her PJs underneath.
And she does milk lemonade when she's crossing herself, which I've seen that gif, and I'd forgotten it was an actual thing she said. I just thought it was, like, silly subtitles on the gif, but no.
She's absolutely hammered, and in the pulpit trying to preach about the good news of Jesus being born, but she forgets the name of Jesus. Who's that bloke? What's his name?
Jeremy.
Which is weird, because, I mean, at least for me, if I drink, like, I tend to get more loquacious about Jesus. I just talk how much I love him.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think is really beautiful about this, in the chaos and the mess and the hilariousness of it, is that she still gets the message.
Yeah.
And the message is that God loves you so much that God came as a baby at Christmas, and that's amazing. And then she goes, what does she... 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thunderbirds are go!
And then just...
this is an actual nightmare scenario. I mean, I know that I have nightmares about being asked to preach and I'm unprepared and I can't remember what I was going to say and not being able to find the words. I cannot imagine doing that while drunk. So have you ever led a service while drunk? Would you ever lead a service while drunk? Or if you happen to make this mistake and you suddenly found out you'd been drinking and you suddenly found out you're supposed to be leading a service, what would you do?
I think in this situation, I'd get Alice to cover it. As the verger, I'd get her to do it because she is so hammered. They're fortunate in that they've got someone who can do that, which is a difficult position. And apologies, Mum, I've definitely had big kind of Jesus conversations with people, a little bit worse for wear, but I've never, ever been drunk for a service.
No, me neither.
I don't think I'd be able to go to a communion table and preside.
Yeah.
And I've presided while on a lot of painkillers, but that was kind of necessary rather than. But then I've had I wasn't actually leading the service, but I had a fairly psychedelic moment at one point when I was on painkillers, listening to an organ. But
Holy Spirit, mate.
But I think I've always found God has helped me through. If I'm super fatigued and my brain just isn't firing on all cylinders, I can't connect thoughts together. Suddenly God gives me what I need. Because to be honest, when you're fatigued, like they say, driving when you're fatigued or sleep deprived is as bad, if not worse, than driving drunk. So I'm going to say I have led services when I'm super fatigued or sleep deprived. Yeah. And God has got me through. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I don't think I could preside at communion if I was drunk. I've gotten a little bit tipsy after communion because I overfilled the chalice and then finished it off too quickly.
Yeah, been there.
And communion wine is super strong.
But so Geraldine's now passed out at this point, and that's a nightmare scenario that none of us would like to be in. But we hear the carol that Jim has created, and musically it's beautiful. So good job.
Well done,
Cecil.
Jim. Well done, Cecil.
The lyrics are interesting, but it's a nice take on the
the unheard and unseen nativity.
The birth of our Lord.
But beautiful, and I challenge people to find a way to use it.
What, speaking about The Virgin being fully
See
dilated.
if you can sneak that one into a 9 Lessons in Carols.
That's
Around
an
about
excellent challenge.
number 6, when people have kind of faded out slightly before they faded back in.
Yeah, get the concentration back.
Translate it
service
into
ends.
German. No one will know.
So the service ends, and we're at the next morning, and we're at the vicarage to celebrate. I assume, are they not doing a service in the next morning?
Well,
Anyway,
Geraldine seems to think she's doing a Christmas morning service.
yeah.
They bypass it.
So maybe we're in the afternoon now, and presents are appearing, and the boys have bought her the reindeer, the big reindeer, and she's thrilled with it. And as it's being opened, David and Hugo and Alice appear with their illustrated Bible wrapped up, and they realise that it's not the appropriate gift.
Well, no, they arrive with a reindeer, just a slightly smaller reindeer.
Oh, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
And then they're too embarrassed to give her the small reindeer for looking cheap.
Yeah. And so they Alice gets sent home to wrap something up and come up with anything.
Something larger than a rolling pin, but smaller than a bed.
Yes. Great. And she knows, perfect, I can work with that. And so they come in, and I'm surprised that Geraldine is not just massively hungover. Maybe she's still a bit drunk at this point. And they talk about the service, and she says they talk about the service, and David makes it clear that she did not get away with being absolutely hammered at midnight mass. But actually, they love her so much that they don't give a damn.
Yeah, and I think that is the dream. It's a mark of success, but it's also the dream everyone wants. You want to end up with such a good relationship with your parish that they will be supportive of you and will not give a damn if you massively cock up.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a pattern, if it's a pattern of difficult, problematic, dangerous behaviour, they shouldn't be supportive of you in that. But these one-offs, you want their forgiveness.
It does. I think it does depend on the cock-up.
Yeah.
That actually, if you've done something truly heinous, then that's awful. But this is we're talking the level of getting a bit drunk and doing a service, a bit drunk, quite drunk and doing a service, and they still love her and forgive her for her foolishness. Yeah. And David says this really wonderful line in his kind of speech to say about, actually, you've not wasted your time here in Dibley. And he says, because of you, our lives are full and not empty. And it's just lovely.
Yeah.
And then Alice comes in with the gift she's wrapped. And this ties one of the B plots up, which was Alice redecorating the house. And there's a back and forth about this very expensive painting that David has, which Alice doesn't think fits with the new decor of the living room.
Despite it being a horse.
Despite it being a horse. So she's wrapped this up, a Stubbs painting of an equestrian. And it's worth something like 22 grand.
Yes. It is mad. And Geraldine is so touched, isn't she?
And I wouldn't accept such an expensive gift. I couldn't.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because also there's tax issues here of receiving such a gift.
Oh, I hadn't done that.
Yeah, you'd have to declare it.
Wow. Yeah,
actually, it's David doesn't mean to, but for Geraldine, it shows how much she's appreciated by David and how much their relationship has changed.
Yeah.
And what I do love in all the kind of future episodes that come on, you see this painting in the vicarage.
That's true, yeah.
And it's kind of there as a marker of her success.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think in David's kind of final speech, that kind of is the conclusion of, like you said, Ruthie, how her time isn't wasted. She is the least boring vicar that they've ever had. And because of her, the church is full. That's the first kind of, second thing.
Yeah.
And their lives are full. And so it kind of, the enormity of the painting kind of represents the impact that she's had on their life. And that's the key, really, isn't it? When it comes to success in ministry, it seems that what the programme is suggesting is the impact on people's lives that you make.
So to bring this all together, Please don't get drunk before a service. That's a really, really bad idea. But success in ministry is a really difficult thing to work out and to manage, and how to equate and all these different things. But I think we all agree that the most important thing in all of this is relationships. And actually building really positive and good relationships with people in the community is such an important thing to do, and actually showing just the love of God, even with all our flaws, to people is what we're called to do.
Yes. Amen.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Vicars Watch Dibley. Thank you to Toby for editing our ramblings.
Any views expressed in this podcast are our own and don't necessarily represent those of the Church of England or any other organisations with which we are affiliated.
And as always, bless you for listening.
3 wise men go to see the baby Jesus. The first wise man shows up, gives baby Jesus some gold. Second wise man turns up, gives baby some frankincense. Third wise man shows up and said, "But wait, there's myrrh."
That's good.
I like that one.